Hello, everybody, to another episode of Rooted in Reason. I think we have a good one tonight. I don't know. I think Mikey is looking to ruffle some more feathers. Possibly. We're going to talk about Pokemon and demons. So it's possible that there is a community out there that may come away from this being highly offended. I don't know much of anything about Pokemon or the demonic. Um, I've never had any Pokemon cards before, or I don't know what else is there, Mikey? Is there like stuffed animals or something, or
There is, but
video
before we do that, I just
games?
want to ask, who does your makeup before we start the show?
Oh no, this is all natural. This is all me.
Oh wow!
Yeah, bro.
So maybe you really are born with it.
Born with makeup, like
That
or
that's the commercial. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's maybe. All right,
oh,
forget it.
okay.
Forget it. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so this was all born out of just being in the church for a while. You just hear a bunch of people say stuff like, "I wasn't able to, watch Pokemon or do Pokemon growing up," or we don't do
Smurfs.
Pokemon cards. And
Yeah.
there's even an alternative. I don't know if you know this. There's an alternative. Like there's a whole company that's a Christian Pokemon.
I didn't know
Have
that.
you heard of this? Yeah, so it's an alternative to Pokemon cards. It's a Christian Pokemon cards. So somebody's actually kind of, I hate to say it like this, but someone's making money off of the thought that Christians are split on the Pokemon issue. So I just keep hearing about this, and I feel like, oh, Heather said my wife said this is an old issue. Don't rehash it. But
Hmm.
someone came over our house and said to us, oh, my son likes Pokemon. I don't know how you feel about that. And so I just want to ask the question: Are is Pokemon not is something Christians shouldn't be involved in? And so to do that, I did what I like to do, which is I like to actually find some source material to talk about, and which is what I did. I found an article by somebody who discusses why Christians shouldn't be involved in Pokemon, have anything to do with Pokemon, and we're going to review the points, and we're going to talk about that. So, are you ready for that?
Yeah, I'm very interested in this whole thing. So
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna be good.
because you asked me, well, what are the arguments for this, and I said I don't know. What are the arguments against Pokemon? So let's find out. So here we go. What does the Bible say about the danger of Pokemon fascination? I'm going to skip through her preamble, but I do want to say something right here. If you could see Betty Miller here on the left side of the screen, she's the author of this article. Now, I mean, listen, I'm a vain person, and it's easy to go by looks, but I just want to say that Betty Miller looks like a genuinely um, generous, gentle, and kind person. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, wow, she's I have a very good impression by this picture. So let's go right into her reasons. So first one, the list of the roots and the fruit of Pokemon. I love this. Oh, let's get right into this. This is the best. All right. First of all, as its name describes what this game is about. Pokemon is short for pocket monsters, which is not wrong, by the way.
Mm.
When I was growing up, we were taught monsters were evil, not something to play with. When I was a little girl, the boogeyman or monsters caused us fear, and we did not want to be around them. Well, I mean, I never met the boogeyman. I don't want to be around him either. This game makes some of its monsters out as friendly, gasp, thus causing children to embrace certain evil spirits as friends instead of resisting them. This is not the only game that does this, as there are other games and books that trivialize or glamorize the occult as well. One of the most evil book series that children are reading at this hour is the Harry Potter books. Thunder's going off in the background right now because I read the words Harry Potter. These books are just as dangerous as the Pokemon games. I wonder if J.K. Rowling thinks so. Anyway, the Harry Potter books have become a best-selling series that chronicle the tales of an orphan boy at a school for wizards. These books, she talks about Harry Potter. Well, Harry Potter's out of the scope of this argument here. Anyway, yeah. So coming back here, I some of these points here. Let's get right into this. Her first point. are Pokemon's really evil monsters? And I think that I think we should kind of grip with this right here. I think it's interesting though, just to pop back to it real quick. She said that this game makes monsters out to be friendly, causing children to embrace evil spirits instead of resisting them. And it's not the only game out there that does this. I just want to actually kind of bring this up. There are other there's other media that's Christian in nature that kind of embraces monsters too. Like I just read Chronicles of Narnia too. I was reading
Mm,
Prince Caspian to my kids, and
mhm,
there are centaurs in that, and those are kind of like monstrous figures and giant trees, and there's a water spirit in there, and they're all good, and there are
mhm.
beasts that are in Narnia. And anyway, even in think of Lord of the Rings, talk about spirits. Aragorn enlists a bunch of dead guys in the third book to fight in the army. So there is Christian media that does the same thing. I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
Can I say
So
something?
yeah, go ahead.
I just Can you go back to the article?
Yes.
Um, I just Something stuck out to me. So where she says this game makes some of its monsters out as friendly, thus causing children to embrace certain evil spirits. Like, what a jump to go from friendly monsters to now they're evil spirits. Like, can she say that? Can she make such a claim as that to automatically say they're evil spirits?
Well, you
That's a
want to hear something?
big
That's a
jump.
big jump. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
That it's not only a big jump; it's a groundless big jump. As in,
That's the
there's she
point. Yeah.
doesn't lay out. Yeah, there's no case here she's laid out, but she's also mistaken. So this may be difficult for people to believe, but Pokemon is not monolithic here because when you say Pokemon, you mean the video games, the card games, the animes, the toys, the plush animals. My Aunt Betsy. It said, like
Hmm.
what do you mean by Pokemon? But not only that, there's so much under this umbrella of Pokemon. So much. It's hard, so to paint it all with a broad brush is one thing. But secondly, Pokemon, and which she's talking about pocket monsters here. That is what it stands. It says that is what it means, pocket monsters. But people may or may not realize this that the game is Japanese in nature, and Japanese people all the time love pulling words out of the English language into their own language, and it totally doesn't mean what it means in English, how they use it. We do the same thing, like sushi. Sushi is rice with vinegar, but sushi to us means raw fish. Where's the disconnect? We're using words that aren't ours. It makes
Hmm.
sense. So when we're going to look, let's go to the actual Japanese and see what the actual Japanese definition of Pokemon is. Here we have Japanese Wikipedia. So it says pocket monster, pocket monster, shortened Pokemon. It's part of the Pokemon. It's Pocket Monster series, and in the Pocket Monster series is fictional. What do you call it? Seibutsu, or life or organisms. So fictional creatures, basically, right? So what is
Yeah.
Pokemon? What are Pocket Monsters? Fictional creatures. In Genesis, what do we see happening? God creating creatures, right? Or living things. So even though it actually says pocket monster right here, what it means is fictional living creatures. I mean, they're not actually monsters. Japanese people aren't saying that they're monsters. It's not, because otherwise, all right, look at it. Look at it. If you expected this to actually be about monsters, it would say what monster is in Japanese, like kaibutsu, or it would say like bakemono, or yeah, akuma, or something like that. You would expect one of those words in here instead of fictional creatures. So it's just a matter of a language barrier. It's not about monsters. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know and who might be confused, Mikey is fluent in Japanese. So I just wanted to bring more clarity for our viewers into
Oh
this
yes.
discussion. So yeah, Mikey reads Japanese and speaks Japanese, so he is speaking from experience. So go ahead, Mikey. Sorry.
Try my best. Try my best. So I think that puts it to bed, though, pretty accurately. That there's just a misunderstanding here of what they mean by pocket monsters. They actually don't mean monsters. It's just a language barrier. So let's grab on her second point, which it gets better to me as it goes on. But look, but I still believe though. Looking at this lady, she's definitely a
Yeah,
sweet
I'm not gonna
lady.
hate on Betty, bro. Like
Yeah,
Betty seems
look at her.
like a good
Yeah,
person. So
yeah.
it's a good
I would
picture.
like to, I wouldn't mind hanging out with Betty. She's
Whatever. Like I'll have
probably great.
tea. If she wants to have
Yeah,
tea, I'll have tea with her. Like, we'll have tea. So that's all.
sounds
I
good to
like
me.
tea. Yeah.
So here's one of my favorite ones. The game was created in Japan, which is true, absolutely. And the concepts of the game and trading cards reflect the principles of Eastern religion and the philosophies that influence them. Pokemon is the result of influences that are completely mystical and embrace warrior religions. Actually, sounds pretty cool. I mean, I
Hmm.
like being a warrior. I don't feel like a warrior in my Western system here. These belief systems are not compatible with Christianity. Buddhist mysticism, Hinduism, meditation rituals, Egyptian Book of the Dead, Book of Tao, Analects of Confucius, the Gita, I Ching, Tiberian Book of the Dead, Shintoism. That's a lot, man. And then she goes in here to describe what Shintoism is. Um, and then she says that to be specific, right, that one of the typical examples of a dark side Pokemon character is named Haunter. It's a pretty cool name. It's an evolved spirit that can hypnotize and has Dream Eater power. He's powered by the purple Pokemon energy cards. I don't know about that, but this power lets him drain the energy of opponents. Kadabra, and she talks about Kadabra and Abra, and both characters have demonic powers. And Pokemon, the monsters actually die to their old self and evolve into new Pokemon. This teaches Eastern mystery religions and is spelled out in the Egyptian Book of the Dead and other occult religions. Through this, children are subtly being indoctrinated into the theory of evolution and mysticism of the Eastern religions. Now,
Yeah,
again, we have a little bit of a
that's
jump
a
here.
big jump. Yeah, that's
It's a
that's a big
big
jump right
jump.
there.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, Shintoism does teach that everything has a spirit, and I lived in Japan, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make me an expert on the culture, but I can tell you that Shintoism is uh, is one of the major religions. It's tied. It's tied between. I actually have a picture of this. It's tied between Shintoism and Buddhism in Japan, basically, um, right now. And so, however, that definitely does make sense. It's very hard, and I read articles both in English and Japanese on this. I'm trying to find sources here. There are people who believe that Pokemon does have some influence there. But just to really kind of talk about the point here, I made some slides on this. I just can't. So the first major assertion she makes in this is Pokemon has all of these. I mean, and look at this number of different religions she cites. I don't even know what any of this is. Like a lot of these, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I don't know what the Analects of Confucius, the Gita, the I Ching. I happen to believe that it's probably not possible that the creators of Pokemon knew about half of these things, like
Mm.
especially the Egyptian Book of the Dead, for sure. So I probably going to say that's not true just on its face because, yeah, I mean, no. So the second thing here is that she talks about evolution. So Pokemon could evolve, right? And it teaches your kids about neo-Darwinianism. And secondly, reincarnation, Pokemon die. Whoops. Pokemon die and are reborn. So let's actually use our brains and let's check this out. Evolution, Shinka in Pokemon. Let's take a look at this. Evolution is when a Pokemon transforms into the next species of Pokemon in its evolutionary line. But it says because of this, evolution is much more similar to metamorphosis than Darwinism, despite being the namesake of the latter. Wait a second. Betty told me that this would teach my kids about Darwinism and make them nasty Darwinists. But no, it's more about metamorphosis. Oh, okay. So then it's indeed not that bad. And then if it's just about metamorphosis, then it's probably not about reincarnation as well. So that means that point 1, 2, and 3 are probably not true. You tracking with me here?
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering if we were to give our kids Pokemon cards, should then we be concerned that one morning our kid's going to wake up with a desire to become a Buddhist or a Hindu? Is that something that parents should be concerned about? Just
I'm going to
out of
go
the
with
blue, right? We just see our
yeah, yeah,
kid
yeah.
meditating in his bedroom, doing all these kinds of rituals, lighting candles and trading his Pokemon cards with his 7-year-old brother. Um,
Some
what do you
people
think?
might think so. That's going to be the second point of this, and I'm gonna try and drive that point home. But let's take a look real quick at Haunter and Abra just to finish everything off.
Mm-hmm.
Haunter's a ghost. I am not shocked that he's a ghost because his name is Haunter, and it looks like to me Haunter does have a ability called Dream Eater, where he eats your dreams. That sounds pretty much like a ghost would do that. I mean, she's not wrong about that. But just looking at this stuff, she talks about types. In Pokemon, how Pokemon is talking about darkness. There are types in Pokemon, and the types basically mean the Pokemon. It's like an elaborate rock paper scissor. You could imagine a water Pokemon would be the fire Pokemon because rock beats scissor. It's just an elaborate system of rock paper scissor really. And there is a dark type, but you know what I noticed about the dark type, Ryan?
What's that?
It was introduced in the second Pokemon game. You know what that tells me? The second generation. You know what that tells me?
What's that?
That tells me, Ryan, that the reason they introduced the dark type in the second generation is because the first generation came out, the games, and the first generation was so popular that they had to make more and they had to keep it fresh. So they introduced the dark type. They introduced, a dark type of Pokemon. And to me, I read this and I think second generation, they had to keep things fresh to sell more games. This to me seems a lot less about pushing an agenda, and it seems a lot more of taking your kids' money. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the point of my thing. Like, Pokemon is not about converting your kids. It's actually about taking your money. Anyway, moving on. So 4 and 5 are true. Yes, Haunter lives on the dark side. He eats your dreams. And Abra, we didn't take a look at Abra, but just to say, he doesn't have demonic powers, but I could bring up the article, but I'm sure you're not interested if you're not a nerd. And all the nerds are like, Abra doesn't have demonic powers. He's a psychic, whatever. I mean, they just try to introduce, different things in this game. It's just kind of what it is. All right, so moving on to finish this point. It is true, and I cannot deny, none of us could deny, the creators of Pokemon were likely steeped in cultural Japanese religious beliefs since a young age, right? But there's a huge caveat to that. And let me kind of bring this point home, and I'll bring this over. Even though the religion in Japan is Shinto and Buddhist, 70%, if you take a look at Christianity in the United States, it's 67% Christian. Now, Ryan, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that the United States is actually 70% Christian?
No, they
Yeah. So
could be professing to be Christian, but doesn't really mean much,
that was my impression when I lived in Japan.
Yeah.
And so just to drive that point home.
You could say that about pretty much almost every country, right?
Yeah. And that's what it is. But this article is from 2018. And this one says that, this is what I think was pretty interesting. Out of the world population, over 70% of the world population believes in a God, right? But it says, on the other hand, Japan, right? Japan's population, 29% is atheist. 29%. Now, you don't think that's a big number, but let me say, they are the second population, second biggest atheist population in the world, following
Hmm.
China, who's 67%
Wow.
atheist. So the Japanese population is 30% atheists. And you're going to try to tell me the second biggest atheist population in the world. You're going to try to tell me that these people really do, 70% of them really follow hard to practice their Shinto Buddhist religion the same way we would say, like, we're Christian necessarily. And okay,
Yeah.
just food for thought there. But still, I don't think that Betty in her article or any of the articles I read have been able to draw a direct line between the creative work, Pokemon, and the religion of Shintoism or Buddhism. And even though, right, I mean, you would imagine, since the creators of Pokemon have been steeped in this cultural Japanese religious belief since a young age, that some of this stuff would influence Pokemon. And I would agree, it probably does. But I don't see an agenda here. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so
Sure.
I would bring it as far as, based on your logic of saying, well, okay, so there's Shintoist stuff in there, there's Shintoist beliefs in there with everything has a spirit. So does that mean everything that comes out of Japanese society is worth banning? I mean, think about this. Let's think about this for real here.
Mm.
Like, do you remember the show Tidying Up with Maria Kondo?
Tidying up. Was that a Japanese show?
Yeah, it's a show that was on Netflix. And the show
Mm.
was basically about this little tiny Japanese girl, young Japanese girl, who was teaching people how to declutter with her method. I think she called it KonMari, I think it was. And she basically said that you go into your closet, you pick stuff out, you hold it, you say, does it spark joy? If not, you thank it and you put it away and you get rid of
Mm.
it. Now, what's fascinating about this is you're taking something out of your closet, you're thanking it, and you're putting it away. This might surprise a lot of people. Thanking inanimate objects is a Shintoist belief
Mm.
because everything has a spirit. Now, here's an honest question. Did tidying
Mm.
up with Marie Kondo, did it make you a Shintoist? What is the conversion rate from watching Tidying Up on Netflix to the population becoming a Shinto, Shinto adherent? You know, I don't think there's any.
Yeah, and I think, and I hope that that type of thinking doesn't have the opposite effect on believers, where we're constantly looking out for the boogeyman, that everything has a spirit or an evil spirit or an unclean spirit, and I don't know if you were going to address it later, or it's like, what should our approach be as believers when it comes to these types of
Yeah,
things, you know?
yeah. I want to do that
Um,
in the conclusion.
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Um, no, you're good. I appreciate you bringing that up. So, I mean, you could tell me though it's not the same because Pokemon has monsters, which we already talked about. But there are dark types and all this stuff. It's just a different genre. Like, it's different from watching a movie like Lord of the Rings, where there are monsters in that too. There are good monsters and bad monsters, right? There are good wizards in that. There are bad wizards in that. That's a different genre than watching like a romance comedy. These are just different genres, but they're both, if they're created in the U.S., they're both steeped in our own cultural premises.
Mm.
And so just by going by this logic here that Betty is trying to make here, and Betty is a very lovely person, I know, just her arguments we're talking about now. um, you're saying that basically if anything is steeped in cultural Japanese religious beliefs, then any media, anything that, because you're saying that anything that with non-Christian religious themes is bad. If Pokemon is not any more or less religious than anything else coming out of Japan, which I don't happen to think it is, anything that comes out of Japan is bad. That's the kind of logic that, if I follow your logic to its extremes here, that's what it is. And maybe you come to that conclusion, which is okay. I'm glad that you took a consistent view with it. But yeah, if that's your view, that's fine. But I just want to say that if you're picking and choosing and you're not really thinking about it through. You're saying, I just don't like this because of the look of it. I mean, that's fine too, but just know that you don't have a logical approach here, or it's not necessarily a biblical approach. I mean, if you prayed about it, obviously, and God's like, stay away from it, it's fine. You felt that impression, but and the second thing is, I just want to say that, like we did here, you could do some research on these individual claims here, because individual claims are falsifiable. Am I making sense with this?
You're good, man. Yeah, it's good.
So just to finish up, the other ones will go a little bit quicker here, because I wanted to. She has this one thing here. I just wanted to address the truth about Pokemon's creators here. All right, so this is what she says. The maker of the Pokemon US trading cards is a Seattle-based company, Wizards of the Coast, right? She wants to tie it to Dungeons and Dragons because they're the owners of Dungeons and Dragons, and also the creator of a card game called Magic the Gathering. But she kind of ties it all together here because she says that Nintendo sold more than 14 million Pokemon-related video games, according to a recent Family PC Magazine review. But she says that, okay, so these people are selling Dungeons and Dragons games and Magic the Gathering games, and these people are also selling the Pokemon cards as well. And then she asked this question, I think is awesome. Wouldn't it be fair to ask what the real motive is for distributing these games? Ryan, tell me right now, what's the real motive for distributing these games?
Oh, clearly, it's just to give little kids demons. What?
You know what's actually really funny is that she tells you right here what the real motive is for distributing these games.
Oh, okay.
Sales of the Pokemon products have reached the 1 billion
yes.
mark for Nintendo. So, listen, you guys, the real motive for selling Pokemon to your kids is the money. It's not. I mean, listen, maybe they secretly want to make everyone a Shintoist adherent. I think they just want your money, man. I think honestly, if enough people got together and said there are too many religious themes that I don't like in Pokemon, they would probably take them out. To be honest, because they just want your money more than anything. It's just going to keep going to that. But all right, let's go on. Is Pokemon connected to witchcraft and Satanism? As she goes on here in this article, so she says other philosophies are evident in Pokemon, and these are there's a demonstration of the occultic powers in the games and cards. We also find the influence of New Age cults, Wicca, witchcraft, paganism, and Satanism. And she also talks about the game witchcraft spirits are summoned, called to stay in a circle. And then she says this: in practices, they develop relationships with the so-called good spirits to fight the bad ones. I did research on this. I couldn't find it anywhere online. I don't know if that's true. This is totally against the scripture, which it would be. Totally. I totally agree with her. In essence, the guardian spirits that are used in Pokemon encourage children in the ways of witchcraft. And then she cites that we shouldn't do this stuff. Now, I mean, I looked around for this, and I couldn't find that to be true. She already said, going back to the slide, she already said Pokemon was influenced by all this stuff, Buddha's mysticism. So she wants to tack on to that New Age and also Wiccan and witchcraft. She's not doing herself a service here, because what she's really saying is that Pokemon is influenced by everything. And I would happen to agree, and I'll mention that there are Christian influences in Pokemon too, because there are things that have an angelic form in Pokemon. So yes, they need ideas because they need to sell your kids games. They need to sell your kids stuff. Yeah, I mean, so it makes sense to me that they keep it being influenced by something. But this happens in everything. Like, look at C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis has in his books, he has centaurs. He has which is an influence. From other mythology. He has Santa Claus in his books. So that's what you do. That's part of creativity. You bringing stuff in, and you want to. I don't know. Are you tracking with me here? Are you ready to go to number 5?
I'm tracking.
So here's where it gets a little bit like, all right, so we could use our brains, in my opinion. So does Pokemon trading harm kids? So I'm sure, Ryan, you've seen Pokemon trading cards.
Honestly, I maybe once, once or twice.
So
I
I've
I
seen it
didn't
at
really, yeah, I didn't really hang out with kids. I kind of come from the baseball card era. Trading baseball cards with my friends and things like that. So the Pokemon thing wasn't really a thing, I guess, for me or for my friends. So
that makes sense because when
yeah,
my kids go to school, well, I mean they go to co-op. When they go to co-op, I should say, because they're homeschooled. Anyway, um,
I knew kids
they
who had them.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't really, trade them or anything.
Yeah, there are other kids that are trading cards and play
Sure.
and trade. They just love trading the Pokemon cards
Yeah. Yeah.
at my kids' co-op, and so so let's see what Betty says about that. So Betty says that the trading aspect of Pokemon is unhealthy for children too. Okay, let's see why. It's become addictive in many children. Okay, it creates bad feelings among friends. The older children, right, they're more knowledgeable. They play off the younger and less knowledgeable ones. When a kid doesn't get the card they want, they feel bad. When they get the card they want, they feel superior. This game is not fostering Christian traits, right? And some schools in the nation have even banned Pokemon from their schools when trading resulted in kids trading lunches, stealing backpacks, and threatening body harm for deals gone bad. Okay, okay,
For
okay.
deals gone bad. That's funny.
All right. So here's what she's saying here, right? Pokemon trading cards causes kids to be addicted to stuff, creates bad feelings, encourage negative traits, strains relationships with friends and family, and leads to school issues. Can I just make an observation here, Ryan, about this?
Yeah. Hmm.
What she's basically saying is kids have a fallen nature, and that happens with cards as well as anything else in the world. And I think
Sure.
it's funny
Sure.
that
Yeah.
number five, bro, look at this. Number five, this is such a school thing, right? Number five is some schools ban Pokemon due to trading related conflicts, theft, and threats, right?
Yeah.
But the school didn't, get at the heart issue. They just stopped Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah.
They blame the cards. Listen, guys, kids have a fallen nature.
Listen, my kids play video games from time to time. They argue with each other. I think I've seen them get physical once or twice, right? Um, am I going to blame the video game, you know? Or am I going to address my kid and what's going on in his heart? So, yeah, I mean, you could say that about a lot of stuff, not just Pokemon.
Yeah, I think you could ban Pokemon all you want, but you're still going to have to deal with your kid possibly stealing lunches. Possibly get into fights over stuff. You're still going to deal with your kid being taken advantage of by older kids. You're still going to deal with your kid maybe wanting to take advantage of somebody else. It's being addicted to stuff. It's human nature. If your kid's not addicted to
Sure.
one thing, he'll be addicted to something else. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, even as adults, right? We still struggle with the flesh. I mean, I'm sure most adults are addicted to their phone, you know?
Oh
So,
yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I mean, my phone is right next to me. Why? Because I'm addicted to it. Straight up, bro. So number 6, last one. Do Pokemon games cause dangerous behavior? Back to Betty. Some parents are also saying that they're concerned about disturbing behavior changes since their children started playing the Pokemon games. Their children fight and display antisocial skills instead of proper ones. Instead of the game just being fun and imaginative, it becomes addictive and changes emotional disposition of children. Some children even complain they don't feel good about playing the game since it's a role-playing game. Some of the characters are not good, and this opens the door for children to receive evil influences and demonic invasions. Children can receive demon spirits by opening themselves up to the spirits behind Pokemon. When this was first released in Japan in 1997, wow, I am old. It was reported that over 600 children went into epileptic seizures while watching the Pokemon cartoons. The
what?
epileptic seizures. What? Yeah, and this
No,
is a
I'm
real thing,
sorry.
by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the epileptic seizures were said. I can't say that word. Just make fun of me all you want. I just can't say it. The seizures were said to be caused by the incessant flashing lights in the cartoon, overloading the optical nerves, and inciting seizures. However, seizures could also be caused by demonic attack.
Hmm.
Okay, 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 okay. Let's look at her points again. So she said that parents report behavioral changes, right? Children become more aggressive and antisocial. The game is addictive and affects children's emotions, and some kids feel unwell after playing. So, all right, let's be straight up, Ryan. Between you and me, 1 through 6, right? I gotta be honest. I think that if you let your kid have too much screen time, yes, he's going to have behavioral changes. He's going to be more aggressive and antisocial. He'll be addicted to
Sure.
screen time, and that'll make him feel unwell. I mean, I feel like I couldn't find the article, but I read an article that said after a certain amount of screen time, and it was pretty low, that anger, increased level of anger was exhibited in children, and I just think
Mm.
that listen, I'm not sure if it's the game as much as if you just put a kid in front of a TV, he's just going to watch it and watch it and watch it. So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
And I would agree with her first 4 points that she made. Um, she may very well be right, but again, you could argue that that could go for a lot of things when it comes to kids being involved in whatever it is, watching too many movies, watching too much TV, playing too many video games. Um, I don't know, man. You can say that about a lot of stuff, you know? You can't just isolate Pokemon and think that it just has this unique way of causing kids to be aggressive and potentially getting a demon, you know, because I think in the last point she talks about seizures and how, oh, they say it's flashing lights, but could be some demonic attacks going on. So, I mean,
Yes.
again, that's a bit of a jump, going from lights to demons. So she might be right. I don't know, but it just seems a little over the top for me.
Yeah, and to her last 2 points, Pokemon can invite demonic spirits, and I guess it's possible. I just don't see how. And then she talked about seizures in Japan. So this happens. So yes, that kind of does happen in Japan because some animes, and that's why before you watch animes, depending on the anime, it actually has I think it was Pokemon too. They have a thing beforehand if you've never watched anime that says that when you watch this, sit far away from the TV, be in a brightly lit room, and they have warnings about this stuff because of this very thing. Now, is it demonic attacks? Maybe if all of anime is demonic, I suppose, but this is not an isolated incident to Pokemon to have seizures with anime. Now, is that great? No, I don't think that's great at all. That kids should have seizures by watching TV. But those are her 6 points there, and I just we should probably bring it to a conclusion. I don't know. You want to give me give me your total thoughts on all this stuff, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a parent, you always want to protect your children, right? Whether he's playing with Pokemon cards, baseball cards, whatever cards he has, you always want to um, be involved and know exactly what your kids are doing, what they're looking at, what they're playing with. Um, they're fallen humans, just like we are, and we have to remember that it's our job to shepherd them, protect them. If we feel like things are, they're just obsessed with something, or they're just, you know, constantly thinking about it, and all they want to do is play and whatever it is. I mean, it's our job to discern if we should either take it away or limit them to what they're using or watching or playing with. Because, like you were saying before, they might get addicted. They might love something way too much, and all they think about is Pokemon, or all they think about is Mario, or whatever it is. And so I think that's probably more of the thing that we really need to think about and consider, compared to making sure our kids stay away from something because we don't want to, we don't want them to catch a demon. I think that's a little, it's kind of touching on a little bit too irrational, right? When it comes to that. And it really also can take away our focus from our child's heart. And, you know, their hearts are prone to wander. Our hearts are prone to wander, especially young children. And so instead of thinking like they're constantly going to catch a demon, or they got to make sure that they avoid the boogeyman, I think that the better option is to um, make sure that you're limiting certain things in their lives, and that you're protecting them. And um, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I definitely agree with you there. It's a lot of approach, and it's a lot of the shepherding the child's heart, like you're saying. And I happen to say that I feel like if we teach our kids in the right way, because the truth is this, and this is what I like to remind my kids and my wife. Um, and this goes back to this is going to sound weird. The ontological argument. If you're listening now and you haven't seen us talk about that, it's a pretty good one. But everything is everything is pointed to God, and everything is under His dominion. And so there is no such thing as a world where God isn't in control. And so even if Pokemon exists, even in someone's imagination, the truth is that God would still be in control of that world, and the highest, the High King, and the Lord of Lords, even in that, and everything is under His rule and subject. And so there's no Pokemon without God anyway. So, and I say that to say this, that I want my kids to know that this is fantasy, but even if it were real, God would still be in charge. And I think that goes a long way for me. And that sounds kind of weird, but it goes a long way, because then it's just not about something that's godless and the possibility of other spirits and things existing where God doesn't exist, because it's just not possible. It's just not possible. God always is and will be, and that's just part of His omniscience. He's everywhere. And maybe it's a really intellectual way of thinking about it, but it's the reality that you cannot separate God from creation. It's just not possible. And so you can't have this thing existing. And so that's what I want my kids to have going into any of this stuff, because the world is going to hit him. Movies, media, art is going to hit him in the American world. For anything coming out of any country is going to hit him with agnosticism, atheist beliefs, all this stuff, to try and teach him that we talked about evolution and Pokemon not being Darwinism, but the world is going to want to teach him actual Darwinism. And so just to teach him that God still is in control of all this stuff. He still is. You cannot separate Him from anything. You can't isolate Him and say, no, He doesn't exist, even in fantasy worlds. It's just not possible. So yeah, I mean, that's just my take in it. And I just in conclusion, I feel like unfortunately Betty's arguments sort of missed the mark, connecting following through, I guess, in a logical connection here. And I don't think it holds up. And I said a lot. There was a lot of crazy stuff I said. Does that make sense?
It's all good stuff, man. All good stuff.
You just say that, so you're like, all right, hurry it up. You're done. You're done.
No, I love you, bro.
Thanks, dude. Is it because I couldn't say epileptic? Epileptic.
Did you say it wrong?
I tried 5 times in a row, maybe 6 times. I don't know. Someone can count maybe, but I I maybe said it right once in the 6 times I try to say it. So thank you guys for joining us. Let us know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe. Please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. If we missed the mark, or if we missed something really important, we could always do a follow up. If you have anything else you would like us to cover, any weird questions, what I always wanted to do is Harry Potter. Could Christians watch Harry Potter? Because that's a divisive issue. But that movie is so old, I never hear anyone talking about it anymore, or the books too. But yeah, man, just thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here. And Ryan, if you would mind closing us out in prayer.
Sure. Yeah, Lord, we thank you again, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege to do this. A privilege to just get the time to do this with my friend Mikey. And God, we just pray, Lord, again that these episodes and um, just these conversations, Lord, that we're having, again, would just bring you much glory and be a blessing to those who are watching this channel. Lord, we thank you again, Lord, and we love you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.